Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Lord Haribo, Lord Haribo, Lord Haribo, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Haram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhiraye Nasta Praishvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Very nice to be here with you this morning. We're going to be reading what those who don't understand Bhakti would call the Hindu myth of creation this morning. So this is chapter 8 of the third canto. I'll read from text 10 to 23, 33. Okay. So can we read the translations, please? Men's side, ladies' side, take turns.
At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhadakshayi Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead. The great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed.
Just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay there in the self-invigorated energy called Kala.
The Lord laid down for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas in his eternal potency, and by his external energy he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development, their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Sakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish.
The subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen.
Piercing through the sum total form of the fruitive activities, piercing through the sum total form of the fruitive activity of the living entities took the shape of the bud of a lotus flower generated from the personality of Vishnu, and by his supreme will it illuminated everything, like the sun, and dried up the vast waters of devastation.
So just briefly, this lotus flower, it's interesting, isn't it? The sum total of all the fruitive activities of the living entities here is this lotus flower, which the creation seats, okay?
Into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the Supersoul, and when it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated.
Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the whirl. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions.
Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves.
Lord Brahma, in his ignorance, contemplated, "Who am I that I am situated on the top of this lotus? Wherefrom has it sprouted? There must be something downwards, and that from which this lotus has grown must be within the water."
Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus, but in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root.
O Vidura, while searching in that way about his existence, Brahma reached his ultimate time, which is the eternal wheel in the hand of Vishnu and which generates fear in the mind of the living entity like the fear of death.
Thereafter, being unable to achieve the desired destination, he retired from such searching and came back again to the top of the lotus. Thus, controlling all objectives, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord.
At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor.
See that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Sheshanaka, on which the personality of Godhead was lying above. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Sheshanaka, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions.
The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of Coral Mountain. The Coral Mountain is very beautifully dressed by the evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet, bedecked with jewels, mocked it. The mountains, waterfalls, herbs, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seem like garlands, but the Lord's gigantic body, his hands and legs, decorated with jewels, pearls, tulasi leaves, and flower garlands, mocked the scene on the mountain.
His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the 3 planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly.
The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship him in pure devotion. The splendor of the transcendental rays from his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the pearls of a flower, the petals of a flower.
He also acknowledged the service of the devotees and vanquished their distress by his beautiful smile. The reflection of his face, decorated with earrings, was so pleasing because it dazzled with the rays from his lips, the beauty of his nose and eyebrows.
Oh, my dear Vidura, the Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling the saffron dust of the kadamba flower, and it was encircled by a well-decorated belt. His chest was decorated with the Srivatsa marking, a necklace of unlimited value.
As a sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches, The Lord's body was decorated with valuable jewels and pearls. He was a self-situated tree, the Lord of the others, the Lord of all the others in the universe. And as a sandalwood tree is covered with many snakes, so the Lord's body was also covered by the hoods of Ananta.
Like a great mountain, the Lord stands as the abode for all moving and non-moving living entities. He is a friend of the snakes because Lord Ananta is his friend. As the mountain has thousands of golden peaks, so the Lord was seen with the thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Anantanaga. And as the mountain is sometimes filled with jewels, so also his transcendental body was fully decorated with valuable jewels. As the mountain is sometimes submerged in the ocean water, so the Lord is sometimes submerged in the water of devastation.
Not quite there. Was it 30? 30. I have to wait a couple. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thus, looking upon the Lord in the shape of a mountain, concluded that he was Hari, the personality of Godhead. He saw that the garland of flowers on his chest glorified him with Vedic wisdom and sweet songs and looked very beautiful. He was protected by the Sudarshan wheel for fighting, and even the sun, moon, air, fire, etc. could not have access to him.
When Lord Brahma, the maker of the universal destination, thus saw the Lord, he simultaneously glanced over creation. Lord Brahma saw the lake in Lord Vishnu's navel and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, the drying air, and the sky, all became visible to him.
Lord Brahma, thus being charged with the mode of passion, became inclined to create. And after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began to offer his respectful prayers on the path of creative mentality.
Okay. This next chapter then will be Brahma's prayers for creative energy. So we're going to go to verse number 17 in detail. Tasmad Yuganta Swasana Vagurna Jalormi Chakrat Salilad Virudham Ashrita Kanjam Uloka Tattvam Natmanam Adva Vidad Adideva Tasmad Yuganta Swasana Vagurna Jalormi Chakrat Salilad Virudham Upasrita Kanjam Uloka Tattvam Natmanam Adva Vidadadi Deva. Please chant. Tasmad Yuganta Swasana Hello, Upasrita Kanjamulo Sattvam Natmanumadha Tasmad Yuganta Swasana Vagurna Jalori Chakrat Salilad Upasrita Kanjamulo Katatvam Natmanamadva Vidada Tasmad Yuganta Swasana Vakurna Chakrodi Chakra Salila Upashrita Kanjamulo Katatvam Natmanam Adha Vigara Deva. Anyone else? Whoever's really humble will go first. Synonyms together, please. Tasmat, from there, you got Anta at the end of the millennium. Swasana, the air of devastation. Avavurna, because of Bhuta. Jala, water. Urmi Chakrat, out of the circle of waves. Salila, from the water. Irudham, situated on them. Upashrita, having the shelter of. Kancham, lotus flower. An astonishment. Loka Tattvam, mystery of creation. Not Atmanam, himself, but Ha, perfectly. Avi, could understand. Adi Deva, first demigod. Together, please. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Brahma was perplexed about his creation, the lotus, and the world, even though he tried to understand them for 1 millennium, which is beyond calculation in the solar years of human beings. No one, therefore, can know the mystery of the creation and cosmic manifestation simply by mental speculation. The human being is so limited in his capacity that without the help of the Supreme, he can hardly understand the mystery of the will of the Lord in terms of creation, continuance, and destruction. Most of us have read the biblical account of creation, which is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Basically, half of one sentence is devoted to this topic with a little ancillary explanation. So here we have the sight of Lord Brahma. First of all, the background of the creation, all the sum total of all the karma and desires of the living entities manifesting as a lotus flower, which sprouts from the navel of Mahavishnu, or rather Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And there Lord Brahma finds himself as the first created being within the universe, trying to figure out the whole thing, doing his extended meditation, finally coming to the point where Krishna reveals himself within the heart, and then he has the eyes to see the Lord directly. That's all described here. And in other sections of the Bhagavatam as well. You might remember from Canto 2, it's also described in detail. So this is quite a contrast, isn't it, in terms of the depth of information. And yet none of us can have direct perception of either of them, or any other description of creation for that matter. So there's an old joke about a lawyer and an engineer who are having an argument, which is the oldest profession. So the engineer says, well, it says in the Bible that there was chaos, and then from that God created the heavens and earth. So he had to have an engineer to help him create. And the lawyer said, and who do you think created the chaos? So the lawyer actually had a good point, that any description that we have of creation presupposes the existence of matter. And this matter, where did it come from? Well, we don't know that, but we know what happened afterwards, right? Isn't this is more or less the epistemological approach, or the analytical approach to describing creation. Somehow, somewhere, all this matter was there, and then it came together. And we can, because we can describe how it came together, therefore, we have knowledge of the whole thing. See? So this really fails to address the foundational question, not only how everything was created, but why it was created in the first place. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam that gives us this information. Another interesting consideration in the study of creation is how Brahma is experiencing the whole thing subjectively. He is not like Adam and Eve, the biblical first created humans, but he is very much perplexed and trying to understand what is going on. This is where we encounter the founder of our sampradaya, being bewildered. What's going on? So this is one of the beautiful things about Krishna consciousness that we see in all the acharyas, that there were challenges in their lives, that they were not these unchallenged, what is the word? Anyway, just sublime, perfect beings who are never affected in any way by any difficulties. Right from the very beginning, Brahma is in difficulty. What's going on here? And this is a foundational question for us all, isn't it? Like we want to understand what's going on. Every human being does. And also, we are all pretty much said, it doesn't matter. Pretty much told, right? It doesn't matter. You don't have to understand. Why waste your time trying to figure out these things when you could be enjoying life in so many ways? Why trouble yourself with all of these complexities? But for Brahma, there was nothing else to do but to try to understand the origins of his existence and the origins of creation, how all this incredible scene before him was going on, these swirling waters of creation and this massive lotus flower in which he just finds himself sitting. So as we read in the second canto, at this time he got an instruction from the Lord. Anyone remember these two-syllable tapa? Yeah, just perform austerity. So understanding that, he began his meditation. Meditation is one of the most challenging kinds of austerities because the mind is so restless and stubborn. But Brahma had no alternative, and therefore very successfully and for a very extended time conducted this meditation. You have to be very patient, keep your mind quiet, right? You have to be very patient, like to chant, to sit and chant for an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's like 1,000 horse sacrifices, or it's like yogis submerging themselves in the ice cold water in the dead of winter, or surrounded by fire in the heat of the summer. It's more than that. At least so it seems. But this austerity of the mind allows the mind to be sober and to allows the soul to become freed of the dictates of the mind. This is the point. But by intelligence, by applying ourselves in austerity, we become free of the tyranny of the mind. Otherwise, the mind is in charge. So this first step from the founder of our sampradaya, being bewildered, controlling his mind, and we then see it leads him eventually to see Krishna. So this is a wonderful inspirational part of this entire story of creation. It's not just handed to him on a silver platter. He has to undertake these austerities. So this they call the Hindu myth of creation, because we can't see Lord Brahma, we can't see the lotus flower, we can't see it coming from the navel of Vishnu. So it just sounds like something fantastic that people made up and then believed in, these primitives believed in. But what we really know is that matter came from, the universe came from a Big Bang. But like the lawyer, where did the matter come from? Einstein was such a great genius. He figured out that matter contains energy, or matter is actually made of energy in an inert form. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has this nice description about matter being abominable. Anything without a soul in it, he says, is abominable. But Einstein discovered that this whole material creation is just a manifestation of energy. And what kind of energy is this, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita? This is what? It's inferior, his inferior energy, right? So, Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu Kam Mano Buddhir Evichaya. 7th chapter of the Gita, which describes these 4 types of, or 5 types of gross matter. Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu Kam. That is earth, water, air, fire, and then ether. Ether like being roughly the space in between the atoms. According to modern science, if all the space between atoms were eliminated, all those little particles, the electrons and neutrons, if all the atoms that exist everywhere in the entire universe were together, with no space in between, it'd be the size of a grapefruit, maybe a volleyball. And then somehow all that matter was there, and somehow it exploded, and now have this ever-expanding creation that will eventually stop expanding and then contract again. This understanding has been made possible by scientists like Einstein. So there's an interesting story about Einstein that he was traveling through pre-Nazi Europe with his driver, going around giving a series of lectures. So his driver said to him on one trip, "You know, Professor, I've been listening to your lecture so many times that I could give it myself." And so Einstein said, "Oh, that's very interesting, because I'm tired, and maybe you could give it at this next stop." And the driver said, "Sure." So they changed coats, and the driver came up and he gave verbatim, more or less, the lecture from Einstein. So after the lecture, one learned professor in the assembly stood up and said, "I have a question." Then he began explaining this complex analytical question. And the driver said, "This question is very, very basic. It's so basic that even my driver here in the back of the room can answer it." So, what was the point of that story? It's just such a good story. The point of the story is that when we are just adopting some material description of creation out of a sense of the other things seem too fantastic, that's also faith. We're also just putting our faith in somebody else's perceptions. Our premise in Krishna consciousness is that the universe does not come without an instruction manual. Just like any package from Amazon, the electronics you order will come with a manual. If not, at least there's a QR code to look it up, right? So there are instructions, there are explanations. What is this for? What is that for? How does it work? All of this is contained comprehensively in the Vedic literature. Whereas all we can get from an external examination is sort of a piecemeal, unexplained description of some things that seem to be happening. Just like the driver was repeating what Einstein said without really understanding it. So our challenge in devotional service is to have this open mind attitude that, okay, I cannot perceive with my senses what is reality, how did things start, what is a creation. But I can perceive that when I redirect my service propensity from sense gratification to Krishna, I'm a lot happier. That I can perceive. That is, and nobody has to tell me that. I feel it. I experience it viscerally. It is in my gut. I have been so much happier serving Krishna than I have been trying to enjoy this world. So based on that, we can reasonably say, okay, well, here's a description of creation that is based on this same premise of service. And therefore, I can reasonably say, okay, this is at least as reasonable to accept and understand as is the one under which no character requirements are required. A scientist can be a complete debauchee, but if he's a good scientist, then he's respected. So his personal character, a professor, it doesn't matter, right? If they know their subject, then they're respectable. But in Krishna consciousness, you cannot separate character from knowledge. You cannot separate how you behave from what you believe. The word is acharya in our line of teachers. The acharya means an exemplary teacher, not just a theoretical teacher, but exemplary. So in understanding the Bhagavatam, we need to understand the three types of knowledge, or three ways in which knowledge may be acquired. Okay, there's three sources of knowledge for us. What is the most base?
Hearing.
Well, let's expand that a little bit. Through our what? Sense perception. Our sense perception is a source of knowledge, even though it may be very limited. It is a source of knowledge on which we can base our decisions, we can base our conception of reality, because we can see it, feel it, touch it, hear it, smell it. So this is called pratyaksha, or direct perception. So from the time of Aristotle, pratyaksha has been the foundation of science. It is the scientific method says you cannot perceive it directly, then it's not true. Only that which can be proven, can be seen, and objectively proven can be accepted as truth. That is the foundation for modern society. It's the Aristotelian idea of pratyaksha, direct perception. I mean, of course, because our senses are so limited, we have our eyes can see very little, so we have microscopes or telescopes, and now Hubble telescopes in space, so we can extend the range of our senses and thus extend our knowledge based on our perception. What is the second tier of knowledge, means of acquiring knowledge? Gopi? Yes, which is, what is that word? Unaware. Yeah, which means, yes, mental conjecture. Based on what I perceive, then I can theorize. I can conjecture that something is true and real. So starting with the senses, then going to the mind. Okay. Senses and then mind. This is the realm of perception and understanding of reality for the ordinary person. Senses and the mind. So in the Vedic literature, in the Vedic approach, then we have this third tier, which is hearing. Yeah, Shabda. Shabda is descending knowledge. Anuman, or is also called Anarovriva Anta, that is ascending. And then the Shabda means descending knowledge. In other words, knowledge, comprehensive knowledge, coming from a higher source that we acquire by proper mood of reception. So in this case, the mood of reception is very crucial. How we receive it. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seva, that we hear from authorities with submissive attitude and reciprocate with service. Right? We ask relevant questions. So all of this knowledge in Bhagavatam comes from this third means of Shabda. So again, we can accept things far beyond our sensual or even our mental capacity to see or even imagine, because we do have direct perception of things that we can experience. So it's a reasonable extrapolation to say, I've experienced the Vedas in this way, so therefore I can reasonably accept these descriptions. We are, in other words, not just blind followers. We have a foundation for saying, hey, this description of creation is more comprehensive and meaningful. The third canto we'll read later, a description of time from the atom. It's so in depth and so intricate how all of the creation happens, how the modes manifest, how the senses manifest. All of this is described in exquisite detail. But more importantly than that, from the Gita, we get a description of why it is happening. Why is this whole creation happening? Anyone remember from chapter 15 of the Gita? Or anywhere in the Gita? There's a few references. Why is creation happening? It's like a doctor can learn how the body is working, but they never teach why there's a body in the first place. So why is the creation happening? Never mind the Gita, just philosophically explain. For us, yeah. Because God is benevolent and beneficent, and he fulfills all desires. So people want to enjoy dead matter, then here's the place to do it. If the soul does not want to enjoy matter, then there would be no need for the material creation. Yayedam dharyate jagat is the verse of the Gita that the living beings are struggling in this world of matter because of their propensity to enjoy it. So my last point is about this topic of character. As we were saying, you can be in the realm of science without any major consideration of character. How about in Krishna consciousness? It's a very big consideration. And we can't really understand or appreciate the Vedic literature if we don't follow the regulative principles, for example. We will inevitably be distracted by some kind of mundane priority. But the Bhagavad Gita explains that on the mental platform, the sensual platform, the beginning of knowledge, pratyaksha directly. For the Vaishnava or the Brahmin, it is sama. Okay, first thing is you have to control the senses if you want to understand reality. That is a prerequisite, sama. And then the next tier of knowledge, the conjecture, dhamma, one has to have a controlled mind. The samadhamma, and as Lord Brahma heard, that's achieved by tapa. And one also has to be socham and chantir, peaceful. And this way one can acquire knowledge, and not only knowledge, but vijnana, realized knowledge, that knowledge that becomes internalized, that changes our lives, that fills our hearts with joy and confidence because we know exactly what we're supposed to do. Astikyam, finally honesty, just being truthful. This is possible to be true to ourselves, that's Shishigonitai, and honest if we know who we are. How can we be honest if we don't even know who we are? So Lord Brahma embodies all of these beautiful qualities of the Brahman described in the Gita, samadhamma, tapa, socham. And in this way, we can also follow in his footsteps. When we have knowledge of higher reality, then we have to control our mind, control our senses through austerity. And the good qualities of the Brahman then become manifest in our lives. All right, any thoughts, any reflections on these points? Nate?
Thank you for your class. Krishna consciousness keeps allowing me to go back to the Bible stories that I've learned throughout my childhood and understand them. Like with Adam and Eve, we're talking about creation. Adam and Eve, the fruit, they wanted to be like God and they wanted to have the knowledge and they ate the fruit and they fell down. It's the fall of the jiva. And but our philosophy just gives it more information. It was never emphasized.
Yes, this idea also of the snake being a competitor of God. Like there's this tussle between good and evil. The devil. In Mayapur, he had a Bhakti Martin Maharaj put on a play called Age of Kali, which was adapted from a play done for Srila Prabhupada 50 years earlier. And when they introduced Kali, they played the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. But the thing is that, and that was very catchy. But the point is that Maya is not the devil, in the sense that this competing viciously with Krishna is Krishna. It's Maya. Maya is a servant of Krishna. fulfilling our desires to enjoy without him. So, yeah, this is one of the things, like those biblical stories. I never gleaned from that. I always thought, oh, there's snakes ready to attack. The devil made me do it. Krishna has no competitor, but is his servant. Other thoughts? Thank you. Yes, tell us.
What was the third type of knowledge again?
That is Shabda, hearing. To take knowledge from a higher source with submission.
And then what does Dhamma mean?
Dhamma is like to peacefulness, like controlling the mind. Peaceful. Peacefulness is an austerity of the mind. If our minds are disturbed, then we understand that our minds are out of control.
And then lastly, when you were talking about how Brahma, when he first like opened his eyes, he felt bewildered, and then you said two other words. What were they?
He was
like the process that he went through.
When he first opened his eyes, he said.
I think so.
Okay, I don't remember the adjectives.
Okay. I mean, like something similar.
He was messed up.
Maybe.
Oh, the two syllables he heard. Yes, Krishna gave him this one instruction, tapa, austerity.
Okay. And then, but you said he felt bewildered at first, and then he felt something else and something else.
Well, he was perplexed. He was anxious. He was confused. He didn't know his purpose. Something that we can all relate to, having experienced in our lives.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else perplexed, bewildered, or confused? Yes, Chelsea?
I'm asking on behalf of Rishta. So she says, thank you for class, Prabhu. I really like the way you describe that meditation / japa frees the mind of its tyranny. I was wondering, what would you say is the best way to explain creation to inquisitive newcomers who haven't yet experienced the bliss of Krishna consciousness without overwhelming them?
Right. It's probably a subject which is better to avoid in general. But if somebody asks, because it's an advanced understanding, it's not possible to understand without appreciating the value of devotional service. Otherwise, it's just seen like objective. At most, it's very objective, and it seems very mythological. But if somebody wants to know, we are monotheists. We believe there is a single God who created the entire creation. And we might go as far as saying, besides the creation which we experience, there is another dimension of creation which has anti-material qualities that can intrigue the physicists. Alex?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. Great class. I had a response to this, and then I have my own question. When we were in New Taliban, we heard a class from a devotee there, and she told her story of when she became a devotee. She started reading the Bhagavatam, and for the first time, she read the creation story, and she's so amazed by it, and it was very fresh in her mind. And then she went on book distribution for the first time on campus. And the other devotees were busy talking to students. So when a new student came, they went right to her. And the first thing the student asked was like, "What's your creation story?" And she was so like fired up about it that she just went straight for it. She was like, "Okay, so there's Mahavishnu, and then from the pore is the universe." She said the whole thing, but she was very enthusiastic. Like she really was like confident about it. She wasn't like, she was really. And then the student was like, "That's awesome," and then he joined and became a devotee.
It's all in presentation. That's a good point. More often, it's like we want to give them all 12 cantos, and they say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I asked."
Yeah, that was my usual approach is to try to avoid it until they're more to it. But she was really adamant, like just be confident, just go for it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
I guess it depends on the situation, like you said, on the approach. But I was also wondering, how does the Big Bang Theory fit in our creation story? Does it fit somehow or
Oh,
another?
very nice. Fits very nicely. Mahavishnu is emanating countless universes from the pores of his body. He's sleeping in one little corner of the spiritual world. Nobody else wants to sleep because there's some jivas who don't want to be in the party. So he goes over, lies down. Universes come out, and they expand, and they're full of half filled with water, and then Garbhodakshay Vishnu is lying on this ocean of creation, and then lotus flowers sprouts from his navel. So it's all manifesting, and then it all comes back in when he inhales. So the scientists discovered that the universe is expanding. This was a big step forward in Pratyaksha or Anuman, 50s or 60s. Wow, the universe is expanding. So then they have concluded that at a certain point it will stop expanding and then it will just again contract. So there's different theories about how that will happen. But that's pretty much a general scientifically accepted theory. It came from a unified singularity, expanding like crazy, and then it comes back to the unified singularity. So it's just like Vishnu exhaling and okay. Bruce Boo?
All right. So my question is based purely on my curiosity. Is it possible that black holes could be Vishnu's pores?
Sounds bona fide. That's a good question for the devotee scientists. Has anyone read any of Sadhuputta Prabhu's books or anything? Any comments on that? Why don't we ask? Who do we ask about that?
We can ask Nimai Pandit, I guess. Nimai Pandit or Vaishnava physicist.
Yeah, Vaishnava.
But I was thinking in 2003. Yeah. In 2003, they found that the universes are actually expanding. That is actually in the Bhagavatam. That as the universes come out of Krishna's pores, they actually expand.
And also modern physics has found there are multiple universes. The string theory, that's the latest. I don't know if any of you have heard of Brian Greene. Brian Greene is a very well-known American physicist who has specials on national television. Anyway, his brother is the devotee, Yogeshwar Prabhu, Joshua Greene. And so when he gives lectures, sometimes Brian Greene will say, so I asked my Hare Krishna brother about string theory and the latest in physics. He said, oh yeah, we knew about that long ago.
Yeah, we sing about it every morning. That he eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both material and spiritual.
Yes.
In the Bhagavatam purport somewhere, Prabhupada says that if you take the Mahatattva, or the Pradhan, the unmanifest matter is the chunk, and the glance of the Mahavishnu is the agitation, and you have the Big Bang.
There you go. Yet another correlation. Anything else? Rasika Prabhu, do you want to make a comment? Okay. All right. So, Sadham is ready. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam ki jai. Krishna Papusa, blow by, Sanam Ritapao, Radha Krishna Gao, Jai, my Jai, Prabhupada, Jai.
Sorry?
Nice to meet you. How's your stay so far?
Wonderful, thank you.
Meeting your expectations? Good? Beyond his expectations?
It's just an honor to be here.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're happy. What's available after breakfast? That's all. Okay. Padikya will show you where my office is.
Okay. I thank you for the.
Okay. So,